All right, so we're continuing our Connect series, and tonight we have a speaker, and he's actually, I know him really well. He's a really good friend. He actually helps me out a lot at church. Give a hand for Pastor Brandt.
Oh, no.
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges. I'll tell you the truth about the book of Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd
That's not right. That is not right. Nothing is safe anymore, is it, with cell phones and the computer, internet stuff? Well, it's been a while since I've talked with you. Some of you may not know me. I'm one of the pastors here at the church, but I'm kind of a unique pastor in this church in the fact that I grew up here. So when I was your age, we had church in here, and this was the worship center, and we had youth downstairs in the fellowship hall, and there was about 40 of us on a good night, so things have changed quite a bit. But I was part of the Synergy youth group. We didn't call it back then. I think at one point the name was Reflections. I don't know who came up with that, but at any rate, I want to just share tonight a little bit about who I am, my testimony. Some of you might recall that I was the children's pastor here when you were in elementary school, and then I left. I'm going to talk about some of that, what God was doing in my life at that time and why I left the church and went to another church for a while. And was kind of surprised when God brought me back here. And I actually left 2 times. I went to seminary when I was first in ministry. So this is my 3rd time back. So it must be really, it must be a charm. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about one of these. In fact, these are going to become archaic. This is a light bulb. These are getting harder to find. We're going to LED bulbs now. But the guy who invented the light bulb, and I'm sure you've learned in science classes, Thomas Edison, he struggled when he was younger. When he was in school, his teacher said he was too stupid to learn anything. I don't know if you ever had a teacher put you down, say that you were stupid. I remember my brother being told by the guidance counselor that his SATs were too low, that he couldn't go to he wouldn't be able to go to college. Or his grades, I guess, were too low. And my SATs were too low. And he said, you're going to struggle. And the crazy thing is we both succeeded in college really well. So sometimes we have to be careful what people tell you and when they put you down. Because we have to remember God is guiding our life. We have a purpose, a destiny for our life. Thomas Edison was destined to invent the light bulb. Do you realize, though, that many people believe it took him 1,000 tries to get a light bulb that didn't blow out. And he changed the whole world because he didn't just invent the light bulb. He also did the phonograph, which was a recorder, recorded records, I should say, which you don't know what a record is. Well, no, you do, because vinyl's coming back now. But you wouldn't have any music on your phone without this guy. I mean, and all the other things that he was involved with, a lot of electronic stuff that he was involved with in inventing. And so it's cool that we can just turn the light on and we've got light. And I can't remember how you turn this thing on. There we go. I won't blind you. We'll just leave those 2 on. But I want you to think about your destiny. I want you to think about, what if Thomas Edison had listened to his teachers? He said, you're too stupid to do anything. And I don't know if you ever had anyone put you down, maybe a friend or someone at school who's not your friend, or maybe a teacher, maybe your parents, maybe somebody else in your life just put you down. And we need to realize that God has a purpose for our life. Psalm 139, verse 16 says this. Psalm 139 is an awesome chapter. If you are down and discouraged, when I get really depressed or down, or when I had a bad day, I'd read Psalm 139 because it cheers you up. It's pretty awesome. It says, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book are written, every one of them. The days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. So God created us. He formed you, and He has a purpose for you. And the verse I really wanted to focus on tonight, one of our former pastors that I worked with here always talked about this verse. And it's always impacted me since. But Pastor Jim Laird, was here. He spoke back in October here in our church. Some of you might remember Pastor Jim. But he shared 1 Thessalonians 5:24. This is an awesome verse, especially for you as young people, as you're trying to figure out where you're supposed to be in life. 1 Thessalonians 5:24 says, "He who calls you is faithful. He will surely do it." Pretty short verse, but pretty awesome. He who calls you is faithful, and he will do it. He's calling you to your destiny in life, whatever that might be. You may not have that all figured out. Guess what? When you think you have it figured out, God will change it up. I thought when I was your age, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was getting really tired of getting pressured about the future. I didn't really like school. Actually, I hated school. I didn't apply myself. I could have gotten all A's, but I didn't. I got B's and C's, probably more on the C side. It just wasn't my thing. And I didn't like the environment of school. I didn't fit. I went to Northern Bedford High School, and it was a good school. And in many ways, I look back and I'm thankful that I was there. And I enjoyed going to the school in many ways. But socially, I struggled because the big thing for a guy is that you had to be an athlete. And I didn't think I was an athlete, and I didn't fit in because I wasn't an athlete. And I'm not coordinated at all. I cannot play any team sports. If I have to pass a ball to you, if I was playing basketball or baseball or trying to catch a ball and get it out of my mitt and throw it to you, it would be ugly. I'm the entertainment. And I understand Pastor Darrell isn't the best at basketball, but guess what, Pastor Darrell? There's someone worse than you at basketball. So you should be encouraged. So I wasn't an athlete. So right there, that kind of put me off to the side. And then I was a Christian, and I was really quiet, and I didn't say a lot. I was really bashful in public, like out in public with a lot of people. I loved to joke around with just my friends. I like to laugh. And by the way, if you don't laugh or you don't have a family that doesn't laugh, you need to learn how to laugh, because sometimes we just have to laugh because life's so hard and difficult. Sometimes we just have to laugh at things. So I liked that. I grew up in a family. They picked on me. I was the brunt of all the jokes. I still am in my family. They love to make fun of me. And I embraced that role. If you're that person and that you feel put down by that, that is an honor that people think you're funny and want to make fun of you. Embrace that. That's an awesome gift that you make other people laugh, that they feel comfortable enough that they'll pick on you. It's actually a cool thing. I didn't know that at the time. Now I do. So I'm thankful I had that role. And so my family just loves to pick on me. And then I love to pick back too when I can, but they usually get me first. But when I was 8 years old, we started attending this church faithfully. We came here off and on. But my mom, and many of you know her, Claretta, she taught 6th grade Sunday school, so many of you had her in 6th grade. She hated the big church. This was a big church to her. This room was big to her. She didn't like it. She went to a small church of about 30 people when she was growing up, and she didn't really like this church. Well, my dad didn't go to church for a while, but he decided he needed to get back into church and get closer to God. And my dad's always struggled with that. He hasn't been in church probably for 8 or 10 years. He came on Christmas Eve this year, and we were shocked. But he has struggled with church attendance over the years. But this was his home church. He grew up here. And he said, I'll go back to church if we go to Martinsburg Grace Brethren Church. So my mom said, I'll go to the big church, even though I don't like it, if you'll go to church with us. So we started coming here. Well, immediately I got plugged in as a boy, 8-year-old. We got plugged into the boys' ministry, which I loved doing that. Back then it was more like a camping thing, Cub Scout type thing. We went on trips, backpacking, and we did canoeing and all kinds of cool stuff. And then we also had Vacation Bible School, which we still have. And when I was 8 years old, my aunt was my teacher, and she said, you need Jesus. And I realized one day, yeah, I need Jesus in my life. So I went up in this room. There's a storage room up here. It was the church library at the time. And I kneeled on the floor and prayed and trusted Christ. And I knew I needed the Lord in my life. And I went to Camp Manawagon as a kid. I was there the second year that they ran a camping program. And then I went into the youth group. And I loved it. I loved Wednesday night youth. I absolutely loved it. But I grew up on a farm. My dad was a farmer, and we had farm work to do. And I am not a farmer. Remember, I'm not an athlete, and I'm not a farmer. I'm in bad shape. I'm in bad shape. I'm more of an intellectual. I like to use my brain. But then, even that, I wasn't a good student because I didn't get A's. So that's a problem, right there. I've got some problems, and I have to work through all that. But I just didn't like being dirty. And this nickname has never caught on except with my family. And mainly my mom calls me this, but she always called me Mr. Clean, which that was before Mr. Clean was on the TV with the ad, and especially the Super Bowl ad this year, dancing around in those white pants, okay? The reason I wasn't planning on bringing that up, but the reason I was called Mr. Clean was I hated to get dirty. Well, that's impossible if you're a farm kid. You have to get dirty. You have farm work to do. And I never liked the cows, and I just didn't get into that. So, sorry, I just offended all the farmers in the room. But I wasn't I always say I'm not a farmer, I'm a shepherd. I'm a pastor. Pastors are called shepherds. And we had a little lamb, and I liked our lamb, and I took care of her. But, I had to take care of the cows, the calves, and all that, and I just hated it. We had to pick rocks. I was so thrilled when they came up with no-till planters so that we had to go out and pick rocks in the field this time of the year before they would take the equipment out. And we'd spend hours out there, freezing cold in the wind, picking up rocks. And Dad would yell at us if we were lazy, and I was lazy. And I was like, this is so stupid. I am not doing this when I'm old. I'm not going to be a farmer. So, at any rate, I get through all of my childhood. I didn't like being a farm kid. All I wanted to do was come to youth because I felt like I fit at church for some reason. All my friends are at Northern Bedford, but I didn't fit there. And there's many Spring Cove kids, a couple of Northern Bedford kids back then that came to church, but I just seemed to fit better. Maybe because my Sunday school class was all girls, and I was the only guy. And at first I thought that was horrible. And then I eventually realized, hey, this is pretty sweet that I'm in a class of all girls. So when I go to Momentum, we better not go there. So some of you aren't allowed to date, but at any rate, I'm not sure that I was allowed to date when I was at Momentum age either, but at any rate. That wasn't in my notes either. So I get through high school, and I don't have any idea what I want to do. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And everyone starts pushing you at that time, and when I was a junior, about going to college. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to go to college. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but the one thing I loved was computers. I thought it'd be cool to work on computers and build them from scratch. My grandfather showed me how the inside of a computer worked, and I was really intrigued by it. And I thought if I got training, I could be really good at it. And one day, my teacher at school looked at me. I was taking business classes, an elective, and she looked at me and she said, oh, you're too good to be working on computers. You won't ever be able to make any money fixing computers. Why would you ever pursue that? And back then, we only had 2 computers in the whole school, and only the gifted kids got to work on the computers. So I didn't even have a computer class, and now I'm being told that's for somebody who is a nobody. You're never going to be able to make a living fixing computers. I mean, that's a total joke today. I mean, look at it. I mean, she was completely wrong. And I want to show you what a computer looked like in 1987, the year I graduated from. That is a Mac computer, and that was the 2nd generation Mac. So, number 2 Mac. So we've come a long way because now we have these nifty little things that can do so much more than that ever could. So you can see, I grew up in a totally different era. It was called the Dark Ages compared to you guys. So here I am. I don't know what I want to do. I want to work on computers, can't get a computer class, can't get training, and then God grabs my life. And God's been speaking to me, but I don't want to listen to him. My youth pastor comes up to me and says, I think you should be a pastor. And I'm like, I don't even get up in front of the youth group and speak. And he saw God was drawing me. He said, you should be a pastor. And you know what my response was? I laughed at him. I thought he was crazy. And he said the magic words, though, the one day. He said, I think you need to visit a Bible college because I think you should be a pastor. And his brother worked at a Bible college, Lancaster Bible College, and he said, you should go. I'm like, I'm not going to a Bible college. I'm going to go for computers. He said, I think you need to visit. I think you need a day off school. And that was it. As soon as he said, I can get out of school, like it's an excused absence and I can get out of here for a day, yeah, I'm going. I don't care. I'm not going to the Bible college, but I'm going to go visit, get out of school. And it changed my life. I loved it. I loved the college environment. I stayed in the dorm, thought it was so cool. And I knew God was calling me to be a pastor, but I still didn't want to do it. I was like, I don't want to be a pastor, but I wanted to do ministry, but I didn't want to have to speak in front of people. So I went on the Operation Barnabas at the end of my junior year, and God finally convinced me, I'm calling you to be a pastor, and you don't think you can do it, and you don't think you can speak in front of people. And guess what? You can't, but I can through you, and I can change your life, and I can make you into the person I want you to be. So I graduated from college, came here for 3 years, was a children's pastor, felt called to work with kids, thought I would do that for the rest of my life. Did it for 15 years here. And I started having some personal problems in my life, emotional struggles. I felt overwhelmed. I felt burned out. Didn't know what was going on. Knew it wasn't you kids. I love the kids, but I didn't know what to do. And I thought maybe I just needed a change. I thought maybe the church needed a change. I'd been here 15 years. Maybe they need someone else. So Jenny Stern came on, and she did a fantastic job. And I just needed some space. So I went up to Everett Church, what is it, 25-minute drive. And I went up there for 4 years. And for 2 years, I did pretty good, and I enjoyed it. And it was small, and I was kind of feeling better about myself. And then God allowed the bottom of my life to drop out. And some issues that I had never dealt with for 20 years in my life, and some even emotional struggles I had when I was a kid, and some things that happened even as a young adult and different stuff with my family that I had never worked through. And God said, you know what? You've put your identity in being a pastor. You put your identity in what you do. That's what you have done. And guess what? Life isn't about what job you do. And guys, you especially will struggle with this because our culture tells us you'll be successful if you're good at what you do. And guess what? Life isn't about what you do. It's about your relationship with Jesus Christ. It's about your relationship with God. And so God said, you know what? I'm going to take it all away. I'm going to take your life as you know it all away. So now, not only was I struggling with, should I be a children's pastor anymore? I thought, well, maybe I should be a lead pastor. But nothing was opening up, and I realized I couldn't handle the pressure of being a lead pastor because of where I was personally. And then the bottom of my life dropped out, and ironically, I decided I needed to get closer to God. So I started reading His Word in a deeper way than I ever had before, and I got closer to God. And when I got closer to God, life gets fixed, doesn't it, when you get closer to God? Guess what? Life got worse. Life really got bad. I started having insomnia, which is lack of sleep, big time. Not being able to sleep all night long and having to work and taking naps at work and feeling guilty about that and having to tell my pastor, I'm sorry, I can't work because I'm dead tired. And then it turns from lack of sleep to total depression and heavy depression for a couple years. And I even was taking medication to help me sleep that wasn't working. It was giving me weird dreams. And I had demonic dreams at one point. That was really rough because Satan was attacking me because God was working in my life. And I got on one medication. I'm even reluctant to share this because this is a very personal thing to me. But I'm going to share it because I know some young people struggle with this. And I want you to know I can relate. Now, mine was caused by medication. But I took a medicine that messed my whole brain up. And I lost like a month of my life around Christmas time. There's a month of my life I can't remember. I was just in a fog and in a daze. And it actually caused me to have suicidal thoughts. And those thoughts continued even after I got off the medication. And I struggled. I never acted on it, but there was times when I was in my car, and I have a car that goes fast. I always like fast cars. But I thought about just taking my car and taking a joyride and pushing the throttle down and ramming it into a light post. Because I was broken. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be a children's pastor anymore. I didn't think I couldn't preach. I couldn't get up in front. of the church. So I decided one day, that's it. I'm going to turn my life over to Christ. I'm going to just give it all to him. And I decided, with the help of Rick and Connie Strapello and Lee Strapello, camp season was coming. And I always go to camp every summer because I direct the kids' weeks. And they said, you need a break. You need to get out of ministry, and you need a break. And you need to get your head screwed on straight. So why don't you come and work at camp all summer? And then after the 3 months, you can become a pastor again, but you'll get straightened out. So that's what I did. I went to my pastor and I said to him, I'm leaving in a month. He was devastated. He said, no, stay. We'll work with you, whatever you need. No, I got to do this. I got to do what God wants me to do. I can't do what the job wants me to do. I got to do what God wants me to do. So I resigned and I quit. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was the best thing I ever did. And I loved the people there too. It was good people, very loving people. And so I'm thinking, okay, life is good. I finally made a decision to say, God, you're in charge. And I went to camp and had a great summer. And guess what? After the summer was over, I thought I'd have a church and I'd be a lead pastor somewhere, preferably in the South because I hate winter. And guess what? Nothing seemed to work. I couldn't find anything and I wasn't ready. And now what do? I got to pay my bills. I have a part-time job. The camp could only pay me part-time after summer. I don't know what to do. So here I am doing janitorial work at Camp Manawagon. I've been a pastor. I've been successful. And now I'm a janitor. I'm cleaning toilets. The toilets you guys make messy at camp. That's what I'm doing. That wasn't in my notes either. But then I needed a full-time job to pay my bills and things. So the guy who was in charge of the building here resigned, Frank Dinsmore, and he left. And they needed someone to work part-time overseeing this building and cleaning the building. Well, I know this building probably better than anybody. I've been here forever. So I took the job. I'm probably the only guy that ever served in a church as a pastor full-time who left and then came back and was the church janitor. But that's what I did. But God was working in my life. And I could tell I was getting better emotionally. And he was restoring me. He was making a better person. Because life isn't about what you do. It's about your relationship with God. So then Pastor Brian comes to me one day and says, we need some help. And you're a pastor. You need to start being a pastor again. So we're going to have you preach. Well, now, today, I'm still writing that story. I've been back 4 years or so. I'm a part-time pastor and a part-time building supervisor. I don't have to clean anymore, so that's cool, unless Jody can't. Jody McLean is our janitor. She's awesome. But you know what? I am in the best place in my life. You know why? Because I'm close to God. And it doesn't matter what I do. And God is restoring me. I think sometime I'll probably be a lead pastor somewhere else. But I am totally happy here. This is an awesome church. You young people are awesome. It's just been awesome. It's awesome. And I just want you to know, I wanted to share my life story tonight. I know I'm going a little long here, but just wanted to share my life story with you to know that faithful is he who calls you, and he will do it. And maybe you can identify with this story. By the way, the people that aren't popular when you're in high school, you may become the most popular people ever. And sometimes the popular kids, they mess up their life, and they get in a real mess. So don't just judge life by your 6 years in high school, but live your life of high school for Jesus, and he'll bless you. And cherish the times that you have to come to youth group, and don't neglect this opportunity that you have. Life gets hard. It gets real hard. And I know life's going to be hard down the road, and it's probably going to change again. But as long as I follow Jesus, as long as I follow the light of Jesus, his light in my life, and be a light to others, everything's going to be okay. Let's pray, and then we'll sing. Dear God, thank you that we can talk about these things and just be honest. We all hurt. We're all messed up. We're all broken. We're all impacted by other broken people who have broken us and hurt us. But what's so cool is faithful is you. Faithful are you. And you've called us to be faithful to you. Help us to remember that you are perfect, and that you perfectly love us, you care for us, and you're going to get us through this tough week at school, or the exams that we have to face, or the relationships that have been severed, or just getting through high school because you really don't like it and you can't wait to get out of here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm tired of my parents, on my case about figuring out life. Well, we need to respect our parents, but we also need to realize it's just about resting in you and knowing that you're going to guide us. And you're going to make something cool and special out of our life because you love us. And even if we're a janitor, if we do that to glorify you, praise God. That's the best place we could be if that's what God's called us to do, to glorify him, even if we pick up trash. So help us to love you and to live for you. In Christ's name we pray.